Latin America has long been a region of political tension, economic disparity, and foreign influence. In recent years, Venezuela has emerged as a focal point of international attention due to its internal crises and strategic resources. The United States has maintained a watchful eye, concerned about regional stability and the spread of authoritarian influence. Military maneuvers, sanctions, and diplomatic pressure have intensified, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty. Analysts warn that small incidents could escalate rapidly into larger conflicts. Understanding the origins and motivations of these tensions is key to predicting the future.
The economic collapse in Venezuela has left millions in poverty and created social unrest. Foreign powers, including China and Russia, have expanded their influence through investments and strategic alliances. The U.S. has responded with sanctions and political pressure aiming to limit these influences. Border skirmishes and internal protests occasionally make headlines, signaling a fragile situation. Experts suggest that external interference could turn domestic unrest into an international crisis. The world watches closely as Venezuela becomes a litmus test for global power struggles.
Venezuela's oil reserves make it a strategic prize for global powers seeking influence in the region. Control over these resources could shift economic and political balances in Latin America. The Maduro government has sought allies to protect its interests, creating complex international dynamics. The U.S. considers military options, ranging from limited interventions to strategic posturing. Analysts debate whether diplomacy can prevent escalation or if conflict is inevitable. Every move is being closely monitored as the stakes extend far beyond Venezuela's borders.
Regional alliances are shifting as neighboring countries react to Venezuela's instability. Colombia and Brazil watch closely, preparing for possible humanitarian and security crises. The Organization of American States attempts to mediate, but faces limits in enforcement and influence. Sanctions and economic pressures create additional strain on the Venezuelan population. Analysts argue that these dynamics could draw multiple countries into a broader conflict. Understanding these regional complexities is crucial for assessing the risk of war.
Military exercises by the United States near Venezuela have raised alarm bells in the region. Venezuela has increased its defensive posture, conducting drills and strengthening alliances. Satellite imagery shows troop movements and preparations on both sides. Analysts fear that miscalculations or accidental clashes could trigger a larger confrontation. International organizations stress the importance of diplomacy and restraint. The region remains a powder keg, with tensions ready to explode at any moment.
Venezuela's alliances with Russia and China complicate the situation, adding international stakes. Weapons shipments, advisors, and intelligence support increase the risk of confrontation. The U.S. has publicly warned against foreign interference, signaling readiness to respond. Analysts debate whether these alliances serve as deterrents or catalysts for war. Local populations face uncertainty, caught between political maneuvering and real danger. The world watches closely, aware that escalation could affect the entire hemisphere.
Economic sanctions have crippled Venezuela's ability to maintain infrastructure and public services. Black markets and informal economies are expanding, fueling corruption and crime. The U.S. and its allies aim to pressure the government while minimizing humanitarian fallout. Analysts warn that prolonged economic collapse can exacerbate political instability. Regional migration crises put neighboring countries under stress. Every economic and political decision now carries the potential to ignite larger conflict. Propaganda and information warfare are shaping perceptions on all sides. Social media amplifies fear, uncertainty, and nationalist sentiment. Governments use messaging to strengthen domestic support and justify foreign actions. Analysts warn that misinformation could trigger real-world confrontations. Understanding how narratives influence public opinion is crucial for predicting escalation. The digital battlefield may become as decisive as physical troop movements. Border tensions with Colombia have risen, with both sides increasing patrols. Smuggling and armed groups exacerbate local conflicts. Refugee flows create humanitarian challenges that threaten regional stability. Analysts debate whether these border tensions could trigger wider military involvement. Diplomatic efforts continue, but progress remains slow. The situation is volatile, with the potential to spiral into armed conflict. The Venezuelan military's loyalty is a critical factor in any potential conflict. Leadership divisions could lead to internal clashes or defections. International observers monitor troop movements for signs of unrest. Training exercises and mobilizations are interpreted differently by allies and adversaries. Analysts stress that internal cohesion or fragmentation may determine the nation's fate. Every decision inside the military hierarchy could influence the larger geopolitical landscape. International organizations warn that humanitarian crises could worsen if conflict erupts. Food shortages, medical supply deficits, and displacement could destabilize neighboring states. Relief efforts may be hindered by sanctions or military blockades. Analysts emphasize proactive diplomacy to prevent escalation. Public awareness campaigns aim to reduce panic and misinformation. The global community must prepare for a potential surge in refugee crises. Cyber warfare has become an increasingly significant factor in regional security. Attacks on infrastructure, communications, and banking systems could destabilize nations without a single shot fired. Venezuela, the U.S., and allies are investing heavily in cybersecurity measures. Analysts warn that a cyber incident could trigger real-world military escalation. Digital espionage adds complexity to already tense relations. The invisible battlefield may determine the outcome before conventional forces engage. The role of China and Russia in supporting Venezuela cannot be underestimated. Military advisors, intelligence sharing, and trade agreements create strategic leverage. The U.S. monitors these moves closely, concerned about regional influence. Analysts suggest that foreign backing might either deter aggression or provoke escalation. Every diplomatic action is scrutinized for its potential impact. The chessboard of Latin America involves both local and global players. Media coverage shapes the perception of crises globally. News outlets emphasize conflict, sometimes sensationalizing events. Public opinion can influence government decisions and international responses. Analysts warn that misrepresentation may worsen tensions. Clear and accurate reporting is essential to prevent misunderstanding. The narrative battle is as important as military positioning. International diplomacy remains the key to preventing war. Negotiations, back-channel communications, and multilateral discussions are ongoing. Experts emphasize the importance of compromise and restraint. Sanctions may be recalibrated to avoid unintended consequences. Confidence-building measures could reduce the risk of accidental escalation. The coming months will determine whether Latin America stabilizes or spirals into conflict. Preparedness for humanitarian crises is crucial. International aid organizations are readying emergency responses. Medical teams, food distribution, and shelter are being planned.
Coordination with local authorities is necessary to ensure efficiency. Analysts stress the need for proactive planning to mitigate suffering. The ability to respond quickly may prevent further destabilization.
The coming storm in Latin America is a test for global diplomacy and regional resilience. Understanding the interplay of political, economic, and military factors is essential. Analysts continue to monitor developments closely, forecasting multiple possible scenarios. The region's fate may hinge on decisions made in the coming months. Citizens, governments, and international actors are all players in this unfolding story. Vigilance, strategic planning, and diplomacy will determine whether peace or conflict prevails.